They called him emperor, ruler of the known world. Yet every night, Marcus Aurelius went to war with something far greater than Rome's enemies. He fought the invisible, the soft seductions of comfort, the whisper of pleasure that lures every man into weakness. In his journals, which were never meant to be read by anyone, he didn't write about conquering lands or commanding armies. He wrote about commanding himself, because Marcus understood what most men never realize. The greatest empire a man will ever lose is the one within his own mind. Pleasure was his true adversary, not because he despised it, but because he understood its power. Pleasure is the most seductive tyrant. It doesn't demand your obedience through fear, but through reward. It promises peace and delivers chains. It tells you, you deserve this, when you haven't earned it. It makes you believe you're free when you're being ruled. The Stoics called this the first illusion, that pleasure is good because it feels good. But Marcus saw through it. He knew that anything which steals your self-command, even momentarily, is not a gift. It's a leash. Imagine the emperor's life. Marble halls filled with wine, gold, and beautiful bodies. Men bowed when he entered. Women offered themselves without hesitation. He could have had anything. Yet in meditations you find no celebration of indulgence, only warnings against it. He called pleasure a baited hook, because every man who bites it, thinking he's won, ends up dragged by the mouth. That's the quiet trap of the world. The moment you chase comfort, you hand over your sword. Marcus chose to rule his desires instead of letting his desires rule him. That's why his words still echo long after the marble crumbled. The Stoics believed reason was the true king. Pleasure dethrones it. When a man follows pleasure, he's no longer guided by wisdom, he's guided by impulse. And once impulse leads, integrity follows behind it like a servant. Marcus saw this in the Senate, in soldiers, in citizens. Men who once stood firm, now soft from the slow poison of comfort. The great tragedy isn't when a man falls, it's when he falls softly, when the wine dulls his focus, when the woman becomes a distraction instead of an inspiration, when his hunger for greatness is replaced by hunger for satisfaction. That's how empires die, not from invasion, but from indulgence. Pleasure is patient. It doesn't conquer overnight. It creeps. It whispers. It tempts you to take one small step away from discipline. Just one night off, one drink too many, one more scroll, one more taste. It promises no consequence, only ease. And that's how it wins, because it doesn't attack you with pain. It seduces you with relief. Marcus wrote that a man's peace comes not from external pleasure, but from internal mastery. Because the moment you need something to feel good, you've lost the ability to be content without it. Dependency is defeat, no matter how beautiful its disguise. Every pleasure you can't walk away from owns a part of you. That's what Marcus meant when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." He wasn't just talking about politics or fate. He was talking about cravings, about the invisible strings that pull men without their awareness. He knew freedom doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from being able to refuse what you don't need. The Stoic doesn't reject pleasure entirely, he redefines it. He treats pleasure like a servant, not a master. He can indulge without attachment, enjoy without dependence. That's real control, when nothing owns your peace but you. Look at the world now. Men chase dopamine like it's oxygen, endless screens, lust, luxury, validation. The modern empire is digital, but the war hasn't changed. You're still being conquered, not by armies, but by algorithms. The same seduction Marcus fought in Rome is the one you fight every morning when you reach for your phone before your thoughts. You're not fighting the world, you're fighting your wiring. Pleasure is no longer in wine or women, it's in the infinite scroll, the fake success, the short burst of satisfaction that leaves you emptier every time. The Stoics would call this slavery with comfort as the chain. Marcus practiced writing his thoughts daily, not for reflection, but for reinforcement. Each word was a weapon sharpened against temptation. He understood that discipline is a muscle that weakens when ignored. His meditations weren't philosophy, they were strategy. He was conditioning his mind to remain calm when others panicked, firm when others fell, and detached when others drowned in pleasure. He wrote as if he were reminding his future self, "Do not forget who you are. You are not your desires." Becoming Indecepta is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war. The real battlefield is internal. Every time you resist temptation, you're reclaiming territory. Every time you give in, you surrender it. The Stoic doesn't chase purity, he chases control. He knows that pleasure is the ultimate test of sovereignty, not whether you can resist it once, but whether you can stay above it when it's easy not to. Marcus lived surrounded by luxury, yet remained untouched by it. That's not coldness, that's strength. He was proof that a man can walk through fire and not burn if he knows it's an illusion. Because pleasure is an illusion. It promises escape, but what it really offers is distraction. From yourself, from your purpose, from your own reflection. Marcus understood that a man who seeks constant pleasure is a man running from silence. Because in silence, you face the truth. That satisfaction without substance is suffering in disguise. The Stoic faces that silence. He doesn't escape it. He owns it. So ask yourself, what owns you? What pleasures have you mistaken for peace? Because until you answer that, you're not free. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations on the front lines of chaos, not to look wise, but to stay human in a world that worshipped indulgence. His philosophy wasn't built in temples, it was built in temptation, and that's why it still matters. Pleasure will always call your name softly, like a lover promising comfort after the storm. But what she never tells you is that she is the storm. And if you let her in, she'll never leave the walls of your empire untouched. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." But most men never begin to live because they never begin to control. They move through life as slaves, dressed as free men, prisoners of their own habits, chasing pleasure as if it were purpose. The Stoic knows better. He knows that freedom isn't the absence of restraint. It's the ability to command yourself when every part of you wants to surrender. Control is not a natural state. It's a forged one, built in the fire of resistance, in the friction between what you want and what you know you shouldn't. Marcus trained himself daily in this war. He imagined the loss of everything he loved, not because he was cold, but because he was preparing his mind to remain calm when life stripped it away. That's the Stoic ritual of premeditatio malorum, not pessimism, but power. To think through pain before it arrives is to weaken its hold, its mental armor. Because when you've rehearsed the worst, pleasure can no longer manipulate you with its promise of escape. See, pleasure is addictive because it convinces you that peace must be earned through stimulation. That's the lie. Peace is the absence of control by desire, not the abundance of it. Marcus understood this. He trained his mind to find satisfaction in simplicity, power in patience, and clarity in discomfort. That's what made him untouchable. Because once you can sit in silence without craving escape, you've already achieved a level of power most men never touch. The Stoic code of control isn't a rule book, it's a weapon manual. It teaches you how to transmute desire instead of suppress it. Suppression is weakness disguised as discipline. It's a man fighting his nature instead of mastering it. Transmutation is the art of redirection, taking the same energy that fuels lust, anger, or greed and turning it into something useful. You don't kill your impulses, you command them. You take the fire and forge it into focus. Marcus didn't aim to become emotionless, he aimed to become unshakable. That's the difference between the cold man and the controlled man. In ancient Rome, gladiators fought lions for survival. Today, you fight impulses for sovereignty. The arena has changed, but the bloodshed is the same. Every notification, every temptation, every indulgence is a test of rule over self. The Stoic knows that indulgence feels like reward, but in truth, it's erosion. Each time you obey your craving without discipline, a piece of your will fades, slowly, silently, until one day you look around and realize you've built your life around avoidance instead of advancement. Control is not about denying pleasure, it's about dethroning it. Pleasure can exist, but it cannot rule. The Stoic lets pleasure visit, but never stay. He enjoys it without attachment and walks away without withdrawal. That's the highest form of mastery, not being numb to pleasure, but immune to its control. Marcus Aurelius didn't abstain from life. He participated fully, but consciously. He ate, loved, and ruled, yet none of it owned him. He was present in every act, but detached from every outcome. That's the Stoic balance, to engage without enslaving yourself to engagement. To live by this code is to understand that control is not coldness, it's clarity. It's not suppression, it's sovereignty. When Marcus wrote his final meditations during the plague, surrounded by death and decay, he wasn't praying for comfort. He was reminding himself that his peace was not negotiable. Because no matter what happened outside the walls of Rome, no man could take what he had already conquered within. That's the essence of the Stoic empire. Mastery that no external pleasure or pain can overthrow. Look around today. Men are overfed, overstimulated, and underdisciplined. They've traded their swords for screens, their focus for fantasy, their discipline for dopamine. But the Stoic path still calls to those who can hear it, those who would rather build inner empires than chase outer illusions. The modern emperor isn't crowned, he's composed. His palace is his mind, and his throne is the ability to say no when every cell screams yes. Marcus Aurelius died with calm eyes, because he lived every day as if his soul were a fortress, defended not by walls, but by will. That's the Stoic way. You don't conquer the world by controlling it. You conquer it by controlling yourself. Pleasure may rule others, but it will never rule you. Because you've seen the truth. Pleasure is fleeting, but power, the power of discipline, is eternal. And so the Stoic stands where empires fall, unshaken, unmoved, unowned, because the empire he built cannot crumble. It exists inside him. Thus remember, we are Indecepta. You're not lazy, you're hijacked. Every scroll designed to keep you docile, addicted, and distracted. Dopamine warfare, reclaiming the mind. This isn't just about quitting porn or deleting apps. This is about taking back command of your nervous system, your focus, your fire.